What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me. Today's tutorial is this animated neon sign. The canvas size for today is 2000 by 2000. There's a link in the description down below to the palette so you can follow along with the exact same colours that I use. And in the description down below there's also a link to my Patreon if you want to get even more tutorials every single month, as well as sneak peeks and extra benefits on my Discord server. Hit the link down below and show your support. There's also a link in the description down below to the equipment that I'm using, the Sketchboard Pro, the pen tips from Pen Tips, as well as the Paperlike screen cover. With all that said, let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, the first thing you're going to want to go ahead and do is change the background color. So we're going to go up to our layers, tap on the background color, and let's just select black at the very bottom by double tapping at the bottom of the disc, and hit done when you're ready. Now before we continue, I want to add a drawing guide on here, simply just as a reference for sizing. So we're going to go up to our actions, we're going to go to the canvas, we're going to go to drawing guide, and we're going to turn that on, and then we're going to edit the type of drawing guide that we want. Now I can't see mine on the screen, but you can always change the color of your drawing guide by picking a color at the top there, and you can also change the opacity and the grid size, which is what we're going to want to do. We're going to want to increase our grid size up. And I want to try and create something roughly around about here, around about the sort of 600 marks. Actually pretty good. Let's go for 601. And what that means is we want to try and maintain our design within these 4 squares here, and the drawing guide will also be useful later on when we come to animate it. So we're going to hit done, and then you should end up with a grid system like that. If you want to, at any time you can go back up to your actions and edit that drawing guide again if you want to make your lines a little bit brighter. So when we go up to our layers, we've got an empty one to start with. We want to go up to our colors. We want to double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. We're then going to go to our brush, and we're going to go all the way down to the bottom until we find industrial. And we're going to want to select a wall. So I'm going to use the stone wall brush for this one. And then once you're onto your canvas, my brush size is going to be set to about 30%. What we want to try and do is just make the center nice and bright in here. And then as we get round to the outside, make it nice and faint. So in a sort of circular motion, just start in the middle, and don't worry if it gets a bit too bright, we can always lower the opacity down. You want to just blend that out as it gets closer towards the edges, something like that, until you get like a sort of glowing orb in the middle. Then what we're going to do is go up to our layer, we're going to tap on the N, we're going to lower the opacity right down to something until it's nice and faint. So for me, based on how much I added, about 37% looks pretty good. I might even fill out certain sections just to make sure it's nice and balanced and we've not got too many dark patches in there. So now we want to go ahead and draw in the actual design that you want for your neon sign. Now I'm going to do a musical note. You can do anything you like. It could be a smiley face, it could be a symbol, it could be a logo, it could be anything you like. I'm going to go ahead and do a musical note, and for that I'm going to go up to my layers. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to continue with white for a second, but we're going to go up to our brush library. And I always use the monoline brush, and that's under calligraphy and the monoline brush, and that will be used for our lines. And I'm going to change my brush size actually to about 15%. That will be roughly sort of the size that you want to go for. Now for my musical note, I'm going to have to create 2 circles and then 2 lines off of that circle each time. So I'm going to draw in a circle here. I'm going to pop my finger on the screen once I've held my pen at the end, and that'll give me a perfect circle. And once I'm happy with the size of it, I can let go of my pen. Then I'm going to grab that layer of the circle, I'm going to swipe it to the left and duplicate it, and I'm going to grab my cursor, I'm going to move it over to the right hand side here, roughly until you get the blue lines here. Now that will let me know that the bottom of this circle runs through the middle of the other one, and the middle of this circle clips the top of that one, which means that we've got a nice sort of ratio of movement across there. And if I tap on my cursor when I'm done, I then want to create the lines off of there. So for the moment, I'm going to do it on separate layers so that when I'm happy, I can just merge everything together. So I'm going to go up to my layers. We've got the 2 circles. I'm going to create a new layer. And from there, we want to create a straight line off of this circle. And you want to go up to roughly sort of here. And I can see there, I've got a little gap at the bottom where it doesn't quite connect. So I grab my cursor on that layer and then move it across until you hit that blue line on the right hand side. If you're not seeing any of the blue lines, go to snapping and turn on snapping, and then that should nicely sort of transition in there. Then I'm going to go ahead and create another new layer. I'm going to go ahead and create the sort of diagonal line that's going to run off to the side. So something roughly up to here, looking pretty good. And then all I want to do then is zoom in and link up these two on this one layer that we just used. So you can create an arc, you could even hold your pen down if you want to and see if that helps you with your nice smooth transition of lines. And overall, I'm pretty happy with that. That will do for what we're working on currently. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is add in a straight line off of this circle as well. So we're going to create another new layer. Then I'm going to draw a straight line from here and draw upwards. And hold your pen at the end to get a nice straight line, and put your finger on the screen to get a perfectly vertical line. And something like that is good, because what we now need to do is add in another diagonal line just the same as up here. So we're going to go up to our layers. I'm going to create one more layer again, and I'm going to create the diagonal line that's got to sit in between these two, and then that will go roughly up to here. You want to make sure that these two are nice and parallel to one another. Something like that. That's cool with me. And then I'm going to go ahead and make the adjustments I need to. So I need to elongate this line a little bit. So I'm going to pop my finger on the screen just to make it a bit longer. And then zooming in, just going to link these two together by creating a nice smooth arc in between the two of them until we end up with that. Now, obviously here we've got a little bit of a gap at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and select both those layers for this set of lines here. Grab my cursor. Just move it across until it smoothly transitions into the circle there. Tap on your cursor when you're done, and that's your musical note that we're going to use for today's tutorial. So what we're now going to do is merge all of those layers together. So once you're happy with your design, whether it's a smiley face or a musical note, pinch all your layers together. Then we're going to grab our cursor and we want to position it nicely in the center. Again, you're going to want to make sure that snapping is turned on down here with the snapping toggle there, and you want to get the orange line so let you know you're nice and centered in your design. Tap on your cursor when you're done. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is swipe on it to the left and duplicate it, and then let's just turn off the top one for a moment. The bottom one out of the two, we're going to tap on that. We are going to go to the option of alpha lock. We're then going to go up to our colors, and in the palette I've got this sort of light gray on the left hand side. We're going to tap on that. We're going to go back up to our layers, and we're going to go to the musical note, and we're going to tap on that layer, and we are going to go ahead and fill it. Now the purpose of the alpha lock was so that we didn't fill the entire layer, we just filled in our sign. That will nicely keep it in the background there. We're then going to swipe on that layer to the left and duplicate it. Then the bottom one out of the two, because it's still alpha locked, we're going to go up to our colors. We're going to double tap at the bottom to select black. We're going to go back to our layers, and the bottom one out of the two of the darker ones, we're going to go ahead and fill that layer as well. Now you won't see any visual change, but if we go ahead and tap on that again and turn off the alpha lock, we are going to go ahead and create a little drop shadow underneath. So we're going to swipe on this layer to the left and duplicate it until we've got two of them. The top one, go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and swipe to the right hand side, and you want to add quite a nice tight shadow, so something about 5%. Tap on your cursor when you're done, and it's starting to become a little sort of standoff shadow there in the background. Let's then go to our layers, and the bottom one that we have not yet blurred, we're going to go to our adjustments, Gaussian blur, and we're going to swipe to the right hand side, and we're going to double that this time. We're going to go up to 10%, and then tap on your cursor again, or your adjustments when you're done. Now that will give a nice little shadow underneath, but we want to just move that slightly in direction. But the two layers that we create for the shadow, we're going to pinch them together with our fingers like so, and then we're going to grab our cursor and just move it down to the right ever so slightly, like so, so that the shadow now is kind of on the underside, and we're getting sort of a directional sort of shadow. So that's what we all had to do in order to create our background. This one here is going to be used as well as the background as a layer that's not going to change throughout the animation phase. So this is kind of doing a little bit of groundwork before we start to get into the animation of things. So what I want to do is I'm going to go up to my layers, and where we've got the dark layers for the background asset of our sign and the actual background color itself, we're going to go ahead and pinch all three of those together, leaving the original sign at the top. And then with that original sign at the top, we're going to go ahead and swipe it to the left and duplicate it. We need to group it together now. The groups that you create are different frames throughout the animation. So if we hit group now, This is essentially slide 1 now that we're going to be working on. So we're going to turn on both those layers. So we've got two big white symbols there. The top one, we're going to go ahead and change that to the option of add. And then the bottom one, we're going to tap on that layer, we're going to alpha lock it. We're going to go to our colors. Now I've put this sort of teal color here. By all means use any color you want for your animation or your colors of your symbol. It can be a bright color, that tends to work nicely. Some pinks, greens and blues tend to look the best, but by all means pick any color you like. But I'm going to use this color in the palette, this sort of teal greeny color. Let's go up to our layers and I'm going to tap on that layer that we just alpha locked and I'm going to fill it. Again, you won't see any change because we've got the white one above it. Tap on that layer and turn off the alpha lock. Swipe that layer to the left and duplicate it, and then you'll end up with two of the teal ones. And now we're going to create the neon glows from the actual bars. So we're going to go up to our adjustments, Gaussian blur, and then we're going to go ahead and blur that one out. We want to have a nice tight glow this time, so we're going to go for 5%. Let's tap on our adjustments when we're done. We're then going to go back to our layers. Then let's tap on that layer that we just blurred out and use the option of add. Now that will come into effect in a second when we continue to blur out all these layers. Let's then go to the bottom one out of the two colored versions. Let's go to our adjustments, Gaussian blur, and let's blur that out up to, let's go for something about 12%, and tap on your adjustments when you're done. And that's already coming to life with the neon glow. We're then going to go to our layers. We're going to create a new layer, and let's just grab the one that we just blurred out and put it above, so this sits nicely at the bottom. We're going to go to our brush library. We're going to go to airbrushing and the soft brush, and you want to create a brush size that's nice and big, something, well actually it's actually kind of small compared to our canvas, about 12%. And what you want to do is very lightly just sort of outline all of your lines, so just going over all of those lines, creating more of a glow that's going to sit in the background, and then just overlapping all those lines until you end up with a nice soft glow in behind there. Now I'm happy with that as it stands. So what I'm now going to go ahead and do is pinch all of those layers into one, like so, and then that is our symbol ready to go for the whole animation phase. So let's actually crack on with that. Let's go up to our actions. We're going to go to canvas and then animation assist, and we're going to turn that on. Then at the bottom, we're going to end up getting two different layers or frames of our animation. So what it's done is it's split up the background that we originally created and the neon glow of the group that we created. So it's using this as a frame and this as a frame. What we want to do is the first one, which has got our background content on, including the brick wall. If you tap on that layer again, you can turn on this toggle here and use it as a background. Now what will happen is that frame will consistently show in the background as long as you've got transparent layers above it, and it will sit there in the background so we don't have to keep duplicating it every time. And then this frame here now becomes frame number 1. So looking at our groups, this is our background, this is frame 1, and then we can go ahead now and start working on the animation process and how to go about doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new layer above our symbol. We're going to grab our colors and we're going to double tap to select white. We're going to go to our brush library and we're going to go to calligraphy. We're going to use the monoline brush. I'm going to max this one out at 100%. So what we want to do is, on this empty new layer, what we're about to draw in white will be the glowing beam that sort of shoots up and down our sign. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this grid, which is the whole purpose of it right now, that we added at the beginning. We're going to go ahead and draw in a horizontal line across this middle line here. So we're going to sort of start out here, draw all the way across, pop your finger on the screen to get a nice horizontal line, like so, and then grab your cursor and just make sure it's perfectly in the center until you get those two orange lines running through it. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to blur this out, and this is going to, like I said, become the beam that we're going to use throughout the whole thing. So we're going to go up to our layers, we're going to swipe on it to the left and duplicate it. The bottom one out of the two, go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, and then we're going to blur this out, and we want to go ahead and let's go ahead and do it about 20%. Tap on your adjustments when you're done. That's a really faint one, but let's go ahead and do it one more time. Let's go ahead and blur out the line one more time. So let's swipe it to the left and duplicate it, the top one. Then the middle layer now out of these three lines, go to your adjustments, Gaussian blur, And let's make this a nice tight one to the line. So something maybe about 8% looks pretty good. You can maybe go a bit bigger, maybe about 11. And if you want to, you can spend some time really sort of blurring out the original line in the center, or blur the line itself. But what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that line one more time, and then underneath the original one at the top, so we've got 4 now, I'm going to go to my adjustments, Gaussian blur, and let's do it one more time until we soften that beam up nice and close. So something about 4% this time. And now we've got a nice sort of faded beam that blends out as it gets up and down. Let's then go ahead and merge all 4 of those together. And let's swipe on that one that we've just merged together and duplicate it. And we're going to go grab our cursor. We're going to move it up to the line that sits above. So if we take a look at our grid again, let me undo that for a moment. You can see we've got this line here that runs across, and then this line here that runs across. This line here and this line are going to end up moving down the frame constantly. So we're going to grab that cursor again. I'm going to move it up to that line there, and just sort of roughly sort of guide your line until it sits on top of that line, like so, and tap on your cursor when you're done. Then we're going to go to our layers, and we're going to merge those 2 layers together. And then I'm going to go ahead and the 2 layers that we've just made, I'm going to, on mine in particular, I'm going to swipe it to the left and duplicate it, so I get a nice real blurry line, and pinch those together one more time, and that's it. So now we've got our lines that we're going to use per frame to animate the actual neon moving through the symbol. So how do we go about doing that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our lines that we've got here, the white lines. We're going to tap on it. You can use the option of select. Now it's very important that color fill is turned off. Then once you've selected the lines, we've selected the shape of them, we're going to go to our neon symbol. We're going to tap on it, and we're going to use the option of mask. Then we're going to tap on our selection when we're done. Now that might look a bit weird right now, but if we go ahead and turn off the white line that sits above, we've now got the first frame in our animation. So this is the starting point of our looping animation. So what we're now going to go ahead and do is we're going to collapse the group down. That is frame 1 done. We're going to swipe it to the left and duplicate it. Now we're working in frame 2 by making sure we tap on the highest group here. And you can see we've got a new frame here in our animation. Now anything we do in this frame now affects this one individually. So what we're going to do is, the simple thing to do is turn on your white lines again. We're going to grab our cursor and we're going to move them down, and making sure you get that orange line, which will keep things nice and organized. Now zooming in, this is how you go about making this a real smooth transition. We can see where the last frame was and the green of it. So by moving this down, you want to try and make sure that sort of the blurry parts in between the two, the original frame and the new frame you're about to make, are sort of touching one another. So I've moved mine down, tap on my cursor when I'm done, and then all we go ahead and do is we delete the mask off of the symbol. We then tap on the white lines again, we go to select, we go back to our layers, we go to our symbol, we tap on it again, and we use the option of mask. And that is the same process we do every time. We move the white lines down, we delete the mask from the symbol, and then we remask it with the new position of the white lines. And then we turn off the white lines when we're done. So now if I was to go to my animation down here and hit play, you can see it would bounce between the 2 of them pretty quickly, but we're going to go ahead and fill out all the frames. You can just hit pause when you're done. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's continue on, and let's just create the same looping animation until this line here that's now starting to appear reaches the middle point. So I'm not going to speed it up, I want to do it with you step by step. So we're going to swipe on the group to the left and duplicate it. We want to make sure we're tapped on the top one and go into that group. And now we repeat the process. So we turn on the white lines, we tap on the white line layer, grab your cursor, move it nice and perfectly down until you start to reveal the green previously, and then you've moved the line down a bit more. Tap on your cursor when you're done. Then go up to your layers. We swipe on the mask of the symbol and delete it. We then select the shape now of the white lines that we've repositioned by tapping on it and using the option of select. We go back to our layers, we go back to the symbol, tap on it, mask it, and then turn off the white lines. And now we've moved the neon line even further down. And as we're doing that, we're also bringing in the one from the top as well. And let's continue on. So let's go to our layers, collapse the group down, swipe on it to the left and duplicate it. Make sure you're in the top group, expand the group. We then go ahead and turn on the white lines. We grab our cursor, we move our white lines down, making sure we get that orange line down the middle just to make sure we don't move the lines left or right accidentally. Make sure your gap's nice and tight. Then let's go ahead and delete the mask from the symbol. Select the new position of the white lines by tapping on the layer and using select. Go back to your layer, go back to your symbol and tap on it, and use the option of mask, and then turn off your white lines. Tap on your selection tool at the end. Collapse your group down, and let's repeat the process. Let's duplicate the group. Let's go to the top group, expand it, grab your white lines and turn them on. Grab your cursor and let's just move them down again till we're touching the bottom of the green area that we were last working on. And you can make it sort of as tight as you want, meaning you'll end up having to create more and more frames. Let's go ahead and delete the mask. Let's select the position of the new white lines by tapping on it and using the option of select. Let's go back to our symbol, tap on it and mask it. And then let's turn off selection. Let's then turn off our white lines and let's move on to our next frame. So let's collapse the group down, swipe to the left and duplicate it. Opening up the top group, let's go to our layers and then let's go to our white lines and let's turn that on. Let's grab our cursor and move it down. Make sure we're happy with the position. Tap on your cursor when you're done. You can see every time I'm sort of touching that green area that I've got. Go to your layers. Let's then tap on the mask and delete the mask from our symbol. Let's grab the new position of the lines by tapping on it and selecting the shape of our lines. Let's go back to our layers, go to our symbol, tap on it and mask it, and then turn off our white lines again. Tap on your selection tool at the end. And we're nearly getting there, so let's swipe on that group again, duplicate it. Let's go to our white lines, let's turn it on. Let's go to our cursor, move it down. That's quite a nice position. Tap on your cursor when you're done. Go back up to your layers, delete the mask from your symbol, then select the shape of the new line. Go back to your layers, go back to your symbol, tap on it and use the option of mask, and then turn off your white lines and make sure you tap on your selection tool at the top. And then let's collapse that group down, swipe it to the left and duplicate it and go to our next frame. So I hope you're not getting bored of me right now, but I just want to make sure we go through it together, and the repetitiveness of it can help it sort of set in as muscle memory as well. So we're going to go ahead and expand that top group. Let's go in there and turn on the white lines. Let's then grab our cursor, move that down, and then tap on your cursor when you're done. Let's then go to our layers. Let's delete the mask from our symbol, and then we're going to tap on our shape of our lines. We're going to go to select. We're going to go back to our layers and go back to the symbol, tap on it and mask it, and then make sure to tap on your selection tool and also turn off your white lines. So we're getting very close now to the middle point. Let's go ahead and collapse that group down, duplicate it, expand the new frame, and let's do the same process. Let's go to our white lines, turn them on. Let's go to our cursor, let's move that down, and let's see what we're going to end up with, because this is an important part now. This is actually going to end up being our last frame, because the frame after this would actually be the frame on the line itself. So what we're doing is we're just doing the frame just before it then loops back around at the very beginning. So this is actually the last one now. So what you want to do is you want to position it between the green and the line in the middle. So like that's where the first frame will end up being. So if we actually do position it perfectly in the middle, this is actually what will end up being our last frame. So tap on your cursor when you're done. The process is the same. We go back to our layers, we go ahead and delete the mask. We select the shape of our final lines by tapping on it using select. Go back to your layers and go back to your shape, tap on it and mask it, and then make sure to tap on your selection tool when you're done and turn off the white lines. Now, how you go about making sure it loops, you go down to your animation bar at the bottom here. you want to go to settings and you can pick which one you want. You can have ping pong, you can have one shot, or you could have loop. Loop will mean that the lines will just continue to run, and because of the way we've animated this, it will continuously just sort of go down the symbol like that, which I think looks really, really cool. You can go to your settings and go to ping pong, where they'll sort of bounce up and down. You can also do one shot, but that will just simply play it through once. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go for loop, because I like it just continuously and infinitely looping. You can mess around with your frames per second. This will speed up. So if you go to 6, for example, it will slow it right down. But the more frames you add per second, the faster it will be. So I think I was at 15. You could go all the way up to say 30 and double that up, and you get quite a fast neon sign there. But I'm going to go drop that right back down to 15. And that's it. If we go to play again, that's what we're going to end up with. Now I'm going to show you how to export it. What you want to go ahead and do is hit pause. To export it, so say Instagram, you can't do it as a GIF, but you'll have to do it as a video. So you're going to have to go up to your actions. We're going to go to share, and we're going to go down here, and we want to choose an animated MP4. Tap on that, and it will show you a preview of your video. Now you can do max resolution, which will obviously make the size nice and big. Otherwise you can do web ready and it will make a much smaller file. But for Instagram, you're probably better off doing max resolution. Hit export when you're happy. And from here, you want to go ahead and hit save video, and that will save it to your gallery, and you'll be able to view that in there. So if you want to, you can go up to your actions, go to canvas and turn off your drawing guide now. Hit play, and you can admire your creation that we've done in this tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, drop a like down below, helps the channel out an awful lot, and comment down below what sort of symbol you're going to use, and make sure to tag me in your creations on Instagram. The links to my Instagram, my TikTok, Facebook and my Discord are all in the description down below. If you're new here, I post Procreate content every single week, so if you want some tutorials to follow along with, hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. And if you can't get enough Joel Create content, there's also a link to my Patreon where you can get access to even more tutorials every single month. And if you're interested in what I'm using here, this is the Sketchboard Pro. There's a link to it in the description down below, as well as all the equipment that I use, including my Paperlike screen cover, and as well as my pen tips accessories. So with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.